Well, greetings again. This is Dr. Bill Wyatt, and with the American Orthodontic Society. And this morning I wanted to talk about a subject here. I've had several people ask about what happens to the blood supply to teeth when you move them as much as you've moved them, like we talking about doing restorative dentistry by taking the teeth that are there and sliding them forward into gaps that you have over losing the teeth for various reasons. And it works. And I've seen this happen for years, ever since I've been started and worked in dental school. We've seen these teeth move like this. So I want to just talk about that this morning, and we'll show you. I've got a skull that is a real skull, and it's been worked over, and I must have got it about 40 years ago when you could do that. Now you can't buy one of them. I haven't tried anything, but it's a shame that people don't have the real thing there to look at. It's so much different from a plastic one. And I hope that they would release that so that people could have a real skull to look at. So let's get started on this. And I'm gonna, let me see, I better touch that. Now this is part of that skull, the jaw, and we're going to look at these teeth right in here. They skillfully sawed this bone structure away, and this is, we'll unlock it right down here and just fold this back out, and we'll look at these teeth and look at what the structure is, and then we'll think about taking, say, this tooth and moving it over to this spot right here. What actually takes place? And you could either take this tooth and move it up to here, and I've not had any problem whatsoever with losing the blood supply. And I've moved so many teeth, it'd be hard to tell you how many. And I have never had one of them go bad just moving it over like that. That's unusual. I did have a lady working for me, and she had a cuspid that was out of place, and they built something in the lab and stuff, and we put on there, and it put too much pressure on the tip of that tooth, and it died. But I have never had a patient that we moved teeth around in here that had the tooth die. They're just lucky, maybe, I don't know. But let's take a closer look at it and see what happens. We'll just open this gate right here on the jaw, and here we're opening it, and you're going to see the, I don't know how they did this with such a fine saw. They went down and cut all this back. Now we'll take this portion and pull it way back over to this side, and now we can get a good look at the actual bone structure in here. Now cortical bone is solid, and it is tough, and it is hard, and if you're going to put a tad or a screw into that, it's best to take, if you just have a place in the bone, you're going to try to put a screw here, it'd be better to kind of make a little X in the tissues so your drill doesn't get this. And you drill a tiny hole in it, in this cortical bone, slightly smaller than your screw in the tad, and so it pulls in there, and it'll grip that cortical bone like mad. But if you're trying to go into cancellous bone and expect it to do that, this stuff is just spongy, and it's just a little network in there. You can see that. Now we'll just talk about everything relating to this. Now let's say if we take this tooth out right here, and we're going to move this one up and put it in that place. The way to move a tooth bodily, some people say, well, we'll move it over this way. Well, the tooth rotates on a spot, something like here. And if I just move the top over or let it drift, the roots go back in the other direction. When the crown comes over here, it rotates around this area. It's far better. And people think, well, we moved it real quick. You didn't move it at all quick, because you're going to have to bring this up and line it up. So we can take this tooth right here and put it right there with it in the same position. Now, I'm going to try to draw what we do. We would have brackets or something on this tooth right here, and say we've got a gap, but at this point, I'm going to erase that, we've got space here. When we make the arch wire coming around to that tooth, we usually come in and put a little deal like this, and then we'll put a bend in it down like that. And you'll put this, straighten this out, put it in here, this end will be going down here, you pick it up and bring it over here. And you can tie through this circle and bring it around that tooth on the lingual side and come back just bring it around your bracket and come up in here. And you can put pressure on this and put a lot of pressure and make sure your arch wire is tied down over here. And it'll pull this tooth forward bodily. Now, I don't know why this seems to be so hard to get across to people. You do not have to pull this tooth one way and then the other way and wiggle it back. You just put a loop in there and you put pressure between here and here. And if the tooth moves, if you've got too much force here, the roots will get ahead of the crown. So you know you have too much force here. If the crown starts getting ahead of the root, then you know you force pulling here is too much. So you should, every dentist ought to know how to do that. I don't care whether you do it orthodontics or not. You ought to know that that can be done. And if you don't want to do it, send it to somebody else to let them do it. And you can take this tooth and set it right up in there. So if this tooth is bad, you can move this tooth over and you take the wisdom tooth and follow it up there. And we've got videos, all kind of stuff showing doing that. I mean, just took one lady and did the whole mouth that way, see. All right, I'm going to erase that, and we'll go on to the next picture. And this is virtually the same thing, but we're going to get something and blow this up a little bigger. So the cancellous bone, let's see if we get it up here. You can see it is really spongy. Now, what happens to and each tooth, you know, we have a big nerve going through here, a bundle, and the blood vessels going into each of these teeth, and also blood vessels feed the cancellous bone, and everything in there is fed by the blood, and the blood vessels run up inside and supply the pulp of the tooth from both directions. And you have nerves going up in there, and you have an artery, and you have a vein, and you have a lymph vessel. It is a complicated thing for actually. And how it came about, I don't know. The good Lord, whoever created this is amazing, the strength. Now I've got these teeth you see right here. The front teeth They came in when I was about 6 years of age. They grew before that and just came into the mouth. And I've been using them for about 88 years anyway. And don't even have the ends wore off of them yet. I mean, that stuff grew in my body. It is that hard. And that is the hard part about the enamel of these teeth. But you let acid get on it, you can eat it up, and I've done some of that too. Let's get on back with moving the teeth. Now, I have been doing this stuff since messing with the teeth like this since 1952. Moved up into a junior in dental school, and I have, over those years, have seen people that have been in car accidents, have had their mouth dashed in, and I have never had anybody that had braces on their teeth and just tied down like that had the teeth knocked out. That's the truth. I'm not lying to you. Not a one of them. If you got hit hard enough, of course, you knock your whole jaw off the head. But the teeth were wired in, and I never had a tooth that's lost. Well, I had one young man that the mouth went in like that. The arch wire was that way. For the arch wire to get bent that way, it had to go in past there. And the teeth and the bone and everything was just crushed. And he came in with the arch wire in there, and of course I took the arch wire out and deadened him to start with, and I just put my thumb and fingers behind the teeth and pulled them back into position, and then built another arch wire and wired them back up like that. And to my knowledge, there wasn't one of those teeth lost the nerve of the blood supply, and to my knowledge, there were none of them died and turned black or messed up. The nerves, everything was in here. The nerves must be tough as all get out, because they were broken with the bone and moved back, and I moved it back in place, and they all grew back, everything grew back on the young man like that. So I've not been, I don't have any double-blind study on any of this stuff I'm telling you. I had looked at what happened to these people's teeth over the years, and I wasn't afraid of taking this tooth right here and move this tooth. I could put it right up here or move it. I've never done it, but you could take a molar and put it in the front of the mouth, I do believe, without breaking the nerve or the blood supply. You just have to move it slow, and whatever it is, there are little vessels, little osteoclasts and osteoblasts that tear down the bone and redo it and stuff like that. The periodontal membrane gets real thick. You're moving the tooth this way, it'll be real thick back here, and it'll move it, and it just keeps moving, and you can bring it parallel right up to whatever point you want to happen in there. So I don't have any blind studies to tell you that that's the fact, but I've seen too much of it to know that that takes place. And you can do so many things with the teeth that a lot of people say you can't do that, and you can in many, many ways. But if you're going to, if you want to pull these teeth back here and you don't want these to go forward, then you've got to put a little screw in the cortical bone, run up here, and then bond this tooth to it. And then you can pull these teeth back here, and these teeth will stay there. Or if you want to go the other way, you put a tad over here, and you can pull them that direction. But drill your hole in this cortical bone, and then bond the screw to the tooth itself, and that holds it in place. Let's get on now and talk about the blood vessels. Now, we've got a big artery out here in the tissue, and things come in through here, and this is the mandibular nerve down in here, and it goes in. Now, how somebody took this skull and worked it over. They must have spent days doing this, and put some thread in here that looked like blood vessels, and the nerve, and the artery, and the vein, and the lymph vessel is inside the tooth there and coming out, plus the blood supply to every cell, all in this area right here. And the only thing I know is doesn't get the blood supply is the disc in between the condyle and the fossa up here, where it takes all this pressure. A nerve can't grow in there, and so the blood vessels can't either, so they have to be fed by the synovial fluid, and that's a miracle too, right here. All right, let's get on again now. So don't be afraid to say, if this tooth is gone, pull this tooth up here, this one will follow, and then you can catch it. And the way you do it now is really pretty simple. Where you're running through here, and where your gap is, right here at the center, drop down, make a little circle, and then run this down about like here. And you pull this up, and you can pull this tooth into this space with it being parallel, just like it is when you get if you get the nerve going too far, the root going too far forward, you've got too much pressure down here. If the crown starts getting ahead of the roots, then you need to slow down up here or add more force here, and it'll bring the tooth forward bodily, and that's much quicker than tilting it. If you tilt it, the roots go back here a little bit, and now you have to round trip them to get them back there. It just takes more energy and more time and everything to do that. So I'm going to hope that seeing those cases, we've done so much of that over the years, and you can restore people a lot of times by just orthodontic things. And this is not even taught in the orthodontic schools. A lot of them around don't even teach you how to take the wisdom tooth and put it up here, or if you got a 6-year molar out, slide these two teeth right up in there and fill the gap up. A lot of kids don't get to brush their teeth in their 6-year molars go. A lot of people, and you can take the teeth and bring them in there and fill that in when they're older, and they'll look, and a few months after you get it in place and the teeth come in here, the bone fills back in here, and you get x-rayed, and I don't give a hoot who it is. There would be 9 dentists out of 10 will not know that this is a 2nd and 3rd molar, and the 6-year molar is gone right there. So if you haven't tried that or done it, you really need to get on to it and get to doing that. So we'll pass that on. That's imitations are trying to put where the nerves are. What happens in here, you're going slow, and you're just pulling this through here. The osteoblasts and osteoclasts that are tearing down the mold must, when you get up against it with a nerve or something, it may change the bone structure. The cancellous bone is very pliable anyway, and brings it up. And I've not had a tooth deaden the tooth or kill the nerve or anything, and bringing a wisdom tooth all the way up to the bicuspid. And I think this either stretches out I do not really understand how it either grows as it moves or it moves with it. Now, if you take a tooth and your nerve is coming through here into the bone and you hit it and you shove it sideways, you can cut the artery and the blood vessels go into it and the tooth will die. That happens a lot of times when you get hit in the mouth with a single tooth or something. You can cut it, the nerve going in there. And then you've got to clean it out in a hurry, or they break down the blood and the iron and it'll turn the tooth dark. So anyway, here we go again. Now, this is just a close-up of cancellous bone, showing you how porous it is. And you can see, and now there's a root that goes down here, and there's little tiny cilia like, and the tooth is in a kind of a cushion, and it'll have a little give to it. And once the tooth is, if this attachment gets messed up and it grows to this, the bone grows to the tooth, then that tooth is ankylosed and you can't move it unless you break this loose. And then you can come in and I'd send them to an oral surgeon or somebody, let them shift it, or we did it ourselves. You just move the tooth a little bit and break this and then move it and keep it going, because it'll attach up there like that once you get it to a place. Let's see. Now this is just another big deal, and this strip of cortical bone around the edge of the teeth here, and you can take this and move it out on people in their 90s. If you go in there, if you just move it, if they've got good bone structure and everything, you got a blood supply in there, it'll move as long as you're living. I know mine would do that right now. They would move that way. Now, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about. People say, well, how quick does it take you to move one tooth over to a hole like this? Well, this is just a bicuspid, but you should start moving that tooth the day you take the tooth out here. So if you've decided which ones you're going to move, get your braces on and everything, and the guy takes the tooth out, put a pack in there, and when it stops bleeding, tie this in here and start moving that tooth with that little spring to bring the root along with the crown in there, and it'll move into that opening much quicker. Now, if you wait around and say, well, we got to wait and see, some people don't have the feeling about it. I mean, they wait on it till it heals over and all that mess. That's the wrong thing to do. If you wait, this bone structure will do like this. This will come in like that, and it'll keep on. If you leave it in there long enough, you'll have a knife-edge ridge of cortical bone, and then you try to move it here, and they say you can't move it, but you can. You just keep putting gentle pressure, but it'll take twice as long or even longer to get this tooth over to this place. But you can move it into a knife-edge cortical bone, but it's much faster. The day you take the tooth out, start moving this in there and put that little spring in the deal here, and if you tie this tight here, and make sure your arch wire's tight on the other side, and that tooth will come forward bodily. If this hits the head here, you've got too much of this. If this gets ahead, you've got too much pressure there. So I think if you're really wanting to do this good orthodontics, and whether orthodontics, the general dentist wants to do that, but if you know it can be done, send it to somebody and get them to learn how to do it. Some of the schools don't go in there and show you how. I don't want to badmouth the departments and everything. Maybe they can't teach you everything. But they could show people what can be done, and that would change the way you would diagnose a lot of gaps that you're going to put implants or bridges or whatever you put in there. You can move a tooth in there if somebody just will take a little time to do it. And you can't look at them 6 or 8 months after and tell the bone structure to be the same thing. It will work it. So I thank you for watching this, and I'm sorry I can't talk any better. And I've got several people writing back and said, I wish I could speak more clearly, and so they could understand what I'm saying. But I don't know. I just can't get my vocal cords cleaned off enough to talk like that. So thank you for watching, and I'll close up here and say goodbye. And I want to thank each one of you for, we have a whole bunch of people that have subscribed to our channel, and you just can't get too many of them. So if you haven't subscribed to it, I would love for you to do that. I appreciate that. But we've got several thousand people that subscribe to this, and I, honest to God, try to be as honest and as fair, and I'm not pulling anybody's leg or trying to lead you wrong. If what I'm doing is wrong, and somebody can show me, I will stop talking about that. But what I've done, I've tried, and I've showed you the results of it. And I hope that you understand that. So I'm going to say goodbye and see you the next time.